Hey, it's Wednesday, and that means it's time for another video edition of Widower Wednesday. I'm Abel Keogh, and today we're going to be discussing the second of the two big mistakes women make when dating a widower. Last week, I did a video on the biggest mistake women make when dating a widower, and that had to do with setting boundaries. I'm going to post a link to that video in the comments below so you can watch it. But today we're going to talk about the second big mistake that women make when dating a widower, and this one kind of dovetails with the first. So usually in the first one, with the first mistake, we talked about how women they tend not to set boundaries, or they have a hard time setting boundaries because they've kind of dated a widower, or they've never dated a widower before, and they come up against a lot of situations that they're not sure exactly how to handle. For example, like pictures of the late wife everywhere. The guy wearing a ring on his finger, so they aren't quite sure how to handle that. And so we talked about that in the first video. But the second problem, that comes up is that is what I call the widowerhood excuse. And this comes up after a woman sets boundaries, or she kind of has an idea of what kind of treatment she expects from a widower. And basically what the widowerhood excuse is that they let bad behavior slide that they wouldn't let slide if the guy was single or divorced, simply because he's lost his wife. And they think, oh, it's okay. I don't like it that he's wearing a ring on his finger, but he lost his wife and that has to be tough, so I'll let it slide. Or, it could be that, I don't like that there's, that there's photos of the late wife everywhere in the house every time I go over there. But he lost a wife and that kind of sucks. And that must be really hard, so I'm gonna let it slide, and I won't say anything about it. And so this problem isn't necessarily the part of having boundaries. Usually, it comes in that women are dating widowers have boundaries. They have standards about how they want to be treated, but they feel bad for the guy. And this is really self-destructive, because for men, if you're not saying anything to him about the way he's treating you, or his house, or the fact he has a ring on his finger, or any of the other issues that come up when dating a widower, you're basically telling him that it's okay. If you're not telling him that you're uncomfortable that he's talking about the late wife all the time, for example, as far as he's concerned, you're fine with it. I know when I was dating, before I started dating Marathon Girl, I was dating a great girl down in Phoenix. We had a long distance relationship going, and I kind of realized that she was letting a lot of behavior slide. It was kind of an unconscious thing, but I realized, that like I talk about the late wife, a lot maybe, or I kind of maybe break down and start crying in the middle of a date or something like that, and I kind of, she never really said anything about it, other than, oh, poor Abel, that must be hard. And it wasn't until I met Marathon Girl a few months later that I kind of realized that, I realized really quick that she wasn't going to put up with any of this kind of behavior. She's like, she basically came to me and said, look, I'm having a really tough time dating a widower, and if I see any sign that you're not ready to move on, or that that you're not ready to to move on and make me number one, I'm out of here. And and it wasn't a perfect relationship at the beginning, because she had never dated a widower, and I was kind of having this balancing act going on between, well, how to kind of work through my grief so we can have a good relationship. So it wasn't a smooth thing, but she kind of let me know that, if you feel like you need to cry, and I'm going to feel like you're not ready to move on. Not that there's anything wrong with maybe having a tough moment, but here you are. Her opinion was, hey, you're out with me. You've put yourself out there. You've said you're ready to date again. So this is how I expect men to treat me. And it was more than just setting boundaries. It was basically, with Marathon Girl, letting me know that she wasn't going to make excuses for my behavior. And so I realized pretty quick that if our relationship was going to work out, I really had to work on not falling in, not making excuses for myself, essentially, not going out there and saying, well, I've had a tough day, so I'm going to treat you like crap, or I'm going to get angry, or I'm going to do all this stuff. I really had to go out there and say, this is how she wants to be treated. Now, I can make excuses about why I'm going to treat her badly, because I've had this, I've lost a wife, I've lost a kid, it's really tough. Or I could go out and say, you know what, yeah, that really sucked what happened to me, but I got to kind of cowboy up and decide what's important. And so basically what I'm asking you here is not to make excuses just because he's lost a wife or kid. One of the biggest complaints I hear about all the time from women who are dating widowers with children, especially younger children, is that their wife died, is that their mother has died, and the widower just kind of indulges them. It's like, oh, you don't have to worry about school. I'll just buy you all this stuff, and basically the kids become spoiled rotten because they've lost a spouse. It's the exact, and this drives women crazy. It would drive me crazy too if I had kids like that. But the problem is that when you encourage that same kind of behavior that you're in a widower, if you excuse bad behavior, if you excuse him not respecting your boundaries because he's lost a spouse, you're encouraging that exact same behavior that he's encouraging in his kids. So you want a relationship to work with a widower, first of all, you set boundaries, and second of all, you enforce those boundaries, and you don't make excuses for his bad behaviors because he's lost a spouse. Doesn't mean you can't give him a second chance, maybe work on an issue or two with him. But I'm telling you right now, if a widower is serious about you, he will figure out a way to overcome his grief, to overcome all the issues that he's dealing with, and make you number one. Don't settle. Don't let the widower treat you like crap. Don't make excuses for his behavior. What he's gone through is a hard thing, but if he's serious about making his life better and making his life complete with someone else, then it's time that he cowboys up, and no excuses for his behavior. So don't let the widower excuse cause issues in your relationship. If you've been out there and you've actually been with widowers and you've allowed behavior to go on, it's not too late. Set those standards. Don't make excuses. Have a heart-to-heart with him, and if he's serious about you, he'll change his behavior. Thanks for watching. Feel free to subscribe or comment below, and we'll have another Widower Wednesday next week. Thanks.